Okay, let's go.
Hello everybody and welcome to the first InfoSec live stream. My name is Simon and I'm the founder of the InfoSec Live community. For those that haven't met me before, I've only been in the industry myself for around 8 months. As you can see, I'm no spring chicken, and that means that I have pivoted from another industry. So today and the next few weeks, streams are going to be around the skills needed to break into the cybersecurity industry. I've been very fortunate to line up some star guests, some very experienced industry leaders for us to speak to and ask some questions to. So today, without further ado, I'm going to introduce our guest, Chris. Chris is a CISO for T-Cube in the US, and I will let him tell you all about himself and his history. Hi, Chris. Nice to see you.
Hey, nice to see you again, too.
So tell us a bit about yourself, Chris.
Okay, so I have a background in the Intel world. That's kind of how I started out. And after about 10 years working in the Intel world and seeing that the human side, although interesting, was kind of losing out to the tech side and being a little bit less relevant, I decided to make a pivot into kind of the security, the tech side of security. So, left the intelligence community, went back to school, self-taught, did all the things everyone's doing right now, Udemy courses, online things, labs, open source material. I went through all that in school and certifications, and got a break like everyone else, if they're lucky, gets their break pretty soon. And then worked my way up and really focusing on, technical capabilities and going from, just an entry-level engineer, manager, director, VP, now head of security and CISO at T-Zero Group.
So firstly, what an interesting career. And secondly, for me, coming into the industry after only a few months, it's been an absolute eye-opener to what job roles there actually are. And you and I spoke about this briefly earlier on in the week. And there's a big focus around red teaming, a lot of excitement around penetration testing. And I was one of those people who got caught up in that early 2020 when I decided to break into cyber. And for me, I suppose the glamour of penetration testing attracted me to it. The red teaming side attracted me as well. But from spending a few months in the community and spending 6 months working as the head of sales for a penetration testing firm, I learned two things. One, the job is probably not suited to me anyway, and two, it wasn't as exciting as I thought. Do you have any thoughts around that?
Yeah, I want to caveat all with, I think the red side, the red team is extremely important in the industry. By no means am I trying to downplay their contributions and the level of people, the number of people we need. I'm actually jealous of the community they have. Everything's very open source, free training. On social media, people are sharing, training, teaching. It's a good community there.
Yeah.
And it's contrast to kind of the blue team. And that's something that I have concerns over not because I'm worried about people, doing red team activities, going into penetration testing. I just think there's a lot of really, really bright people that are seeing that as the only option. And I'm bad that they don't see the blue side as an option because it's kind of like closed off to many people from a training and equipment and tooling perspective.
How do you think that's happened? Because as you rightly said, there's so many resources out there for red team. Why do you think it's so lacking on the blue side?
It's the vendors. The vendors have products that they're selling for money, and they need to kind of protect that to a degree. There's services around deploying them that's worth a lot of money, professional services for all of them, and they really, they put together good training for that because they do want to have people have successful deployments and be secure. But in the act of doing that, I think they've accidentally alienated a lot of newcomers by leaving that more advanced training just way out of reach. you already have to be in the industry, and you have to be in a company that's willing to shell out some time and money for you to kind of get those advanced training and certs from the vendors. And I feel like we're kind of seeing the effects of that right now. About a month ago, I made a silly blog post or LinkedIn post about this that people kind of resonated with. But that was before we had the month of October, where things got even worse from a security perspective.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's going to continue to get worse until we kind of realize, hey, there's a lot of people out there with not much to do except be on the internet. They're just going to poke holes in all these products. They're going to tear them apart. They're going to find every vulnerability, every exploit, everything is going to get teared apart unless we start taking these really smart minds and bringing them over to help on the blue team too. Whether it's purple teaming or full-time blue teaming, there's a lot of really smart people that we're excluding right now that we need to bring into the community.
It's going back to how I broke in. I ended up coming in from a sales angle rather than a technical side, and after setting up the community 4 months ago, I've seen exactly that. I've seen a plethora of talent who haven't got the money to perhaps pay for the expensive courses. They are way up there on the rankings on Hack the Box and Try Hack Me. And there's now a lot of people, you could call it weaponized in a way, but what they need to try and do now is relate those skills to jobs. And Ben Brown at Ronin Pentest, who I was working with before, he came up with a really good idea about relating the skills to security build reviews. So, you've learned how to do it. Well, how about now learning how to report on it? And that leads in quite nicely to the actual subject matter of the stream today, which is the skills needed for cybersecurity. And soft skills, I think, are very important. I call them critical thinking, essential skills, soft skills. They're important across all industries. But when you're at your level, Chris, and you're dealing with board members, correct me if I'm wrong, but are they more likely to be salesman types like me, or are they more likely to be technical people? And the reason I ask that question is how you then get across the importance of the message to them.
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer. They're typically not going to be from a technical background. Some of them, of course, will. It's not uncommon, especially within the security industry itself. You'll have CEOs and VPs and board members that originally were engineers of some sort, but that's a small percentage of the entire industry. Everyone else is more of a businessman, which is fine. That's building a business is very different than building a security product.
Yeah.
And often engineers don't know actually how to build a business that sells products that people need. So you need that side too. And I think part of it, having a human intelligence background, just passively and actively listening and really hearing what people have to say. And in the Intel community, you take this kind of nugget of truth and you have to figure out how to make it, get it to the analyst so it actually makes some sense. It's very much like taking this technical data or results or RCAs that you get from a technical level and then translating it to the board in a digestible manner. That's something I kind of got used to doing. So it's been nice for me, but that's not something that is part of much training right now. I mean, people are trying to do it. Don't get me wrong. There's not no training on it, but it's not something that's being stressed enough. And I think the perspective a lot of security practitioners kind of fail on is they feel like the company's there to support the security program in a way. Like, hey, the security knows how to do everything and they're not doing it right, so we're unsecure, everything's bad. And what they need to do is step back and say, look, we're here because the company exists and we need to secure the company. So our job is to figure out how to do that, not if we should do it or whatnot. So when your CEO or your product, your CTO says, hey, I have this crazy idea, I want to launch this new service, your job isn't to say no, your job is to figure out how to say yes, in a secure way, and maybe it's caveated. They have this crazy idea and you're like, well, we could do this if we hire 100% more people, spend $3 million on, appliances and, pay for a managed service to watch everything 24/7 too. And you give them the plausible reality. And then it's a, risk-based decision that they take or not take from a business perspective. But you can't just be an office of no, or they don't even bring you to the table anymore. They don't even ask you because you're not really collaborating at that point. You're just kind of being a roadblock.
You're an obstruction, aren't you, to what they're trying to achieve in business? Yeah. I think there's the one thing I've seen is a lack of understanding of businesses in the smaller world that I've been dealing with. Now that the firms you've worked at and work at now are bigger firms. I think over the last few years, I mean, you and I spoke about my history in financial services and the fact that I had a regulated business in the UK only a few years ago. and cybersecurity was not of paramount importance as per se as we understood, and it was also not something on our minds every day. And speaking to people in the UK financial services industry today, it's only the last few months and the last year that people have started taking it seriously. And the issue these firms have got is they can't afford a CISO. So what they've got is they've got their IT provider who's dealing with their Office 365 and the infrastructure, trying to cobble together a solution for the security as well. And I think there's a big hole there at the moment. You've got the big players, as you were saying earlier, with all the resources. The smaller companies can't afford that. And there's now a massive firms entering the market to try and bridge that gap. But none of them at the moment seem to be hitting the point.
Yeah, and I think one piece of evidence that kind of supports what you're talking about is if you go and look at the job requirements, you'll see a couple entry level, they're there entry level analysts, but you'll see more, team lead or manager or someone kind of mid to senior. And then when you read the responsibilities and tasks, you really see it's actually probably 2, 3, 4, or 5 roles. They want someone who does
Yeah,
endpoint and SIM and vulnerability management and GRC and AppSec and all these things. And that's usually not typically just one person.
no.
So they're looking for that one person because that's all they can afford, and they want them to do everything. And that's not a real recipe for success, to be honest. It just doesn't, someone may be technically proficient in all those, but are they going to have time to dedicate to all of them properly?
It
No.
is it is typical of a small business though, isn't it? I was talking to a chap who's been looking for work for the last 6 months the other day, and we were talking about his resume and how to change it for each application that he makes. And I was trying to get him to understand that for a smaller company, the same job role that might look the same on the outside, but for a bigger firm, day to day is going to be completely different. And you're right, the smaller firms, you are expected to wear many more hats, perhaps, which in itself brings risk, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. In a smaller firm, you're not going to have a dedicated SOC. So you're the engineer, but you're also responding to the alerts too. And you need to kind of figure out how that works and how that workflow works. And it's not something where I necessarily blame the smaller businesses. It's part of the entrepreneurial process. You start small, you build an MVP, then you build up, and security kind of gets bolted on afterwards. That's been the standard, and I'm not saying that has to change overnight, but I think in this data web app driven world, we're finding that you can't do that. You need to bake it in early. Luckily, there's a lot of organizations that are really trying to bake in security with development now. So
Yeah.
developers are becoming a lot more, as they spend more time with security programs, are becoming kind of force multipliers there, where they're doing more secure work based on just the interaction. So that's a good hope, but we can't rely on DevOps and developers to really take over security. They're a part of the solution, but we just
Yeah.
need bodies, and we need more people that can mentor these new people and really bring them up. So instead of someone doing 2, 3 roles, technically they should be doing 1 or 2 things, managing it, but then bringing in these lower level people and really mentoring them to really raise them up. And then we
And
can
do
start.
you see a problem there, a gatekeeper problem? Because uh, people keep talking about this skills gap, and there clearly is one. No matter what anyone says, they say there isn't a skills gap. Well, there is, and the skills gap is there aren't enough people like you, because the industry hasn't been around long enough to create enough people like you to deal with the demand we're going to see over the next year or two. So, from a CISO's perspective, what do you think the solution is to that? What happens next? Do people have to step up, like you say, and start training and mentoring more, or is there another option?
100%. We need everyone who can mentor to start mentoring yesterday. And a lot of people are, don't get me wrong. I'm saying this is an issue. There are a lot of people that, and a lot longer than I've been mentoring, have been pulling people up and making things happen. So like we have that. We just don't have enough of it. And we need more leaders to step up and to give new people a chance, look for people with technical, the ability to learn, the ability to pick things up quick, not expect everything to be ready first day, and really invest in them, because it's not going to go away. Right now, companies are just stealing from each other back and forth. The pool's not really changing that much. We
Yeah.
need to increase the pool. We
And
need bodies.
it's bringing in that new talent, isn't it, and working out a way to do that. You would have thought with the wonders of technology now that we'd start to see some products or solutions that could perhaps bridge that gap a little bit by providing the structure for people like you to then oversee and assign tasks out to junior
Yeah,
people.
There's some good training out there for blue teams that's really starting to kind of get there, like Elusive Labs and I'm going to blank on some of the other ones, but they're really good blue team labs, but they're really expensive and not something that a newcomer is going to get access to. So that's kind of the the drawback right there. You know, there are people that are doing, again, blue team, free and very low cost training, and that's very good. For most of what I've seen is pretty foundational. Some of it's a little bit, a little bit more technical with things like Splunk. But the
Yeah,
problem is they don't have access to stand up all these resources and VMs and do a real lab and pay for it out of pocket to offer it for free. So we're really running into a roadblock of resources. Anyone can download Kali Linux and put on a VM on their own machine. You actually need a lot more resources to stand up a firewall. You can't just have
yeah,
that on a small VM. It won't function. It's just not meant to. So we're running into a roadblock there. Nor can you just get a VM, license to do it. Partly because the vendors don't want to have their source code just going to anyone they want. But I think that's that security through obscurity part's a little bit old. I mean, their stuff's out there. They kind of got to accept that. And my opinion is they need to start um, opening up the doors so we have more people adopting these technologies early on, and really continuing to grow with it. Because right now, like we kind of talked about, everyone is very, and from the newer pool anyway, very robust in the red team space and really gung ho about being penetration testers. But I don't hear anyone that wants to configure firewalls anymore or be like, identity and access management specialist. I mean, there's some, but not the number we need. You know,
no,
and the training, the difference between that I'm talking about, the difference between the training being practical and kind of theoretical is, everyone knows that your minimum password requirement should be, 10, 15 digits, whatever it is. How many people can actually configure that in an environment? Because that's the actual problem. Everyone knows what it should be, but how many people can go in the environment, find all the places it needs to be set for all the tools and make that happen? That's where we're failing.
yeah.
We talked about the jokes about the intern having weak password. Well, that's not a failure of the intern. Who set up the password policy in the first place that allowed, summer one,
Somebody
two,
do it.
three
Yeah,
password? Exactly. That's the failure. And that's where we're, all these misconfigurations and, VPNs that are kind of left open. Those are the things where we need people to actually do that work, not theoretically from some training that they learn that, notionally I know how to do it. No, we need people to actually know how to use these tools.
I think we need some honesty from training providers as well. Coming from outside the industry last year and using Google as my source to work out how to break in, it seemed that there were clearish pathways to certain roles. And after spending some time in the industry, it clearly isn't as simple as that. And I think whilst there are a lot of people out there who I feel sorry for who are struggling to break into the industry, I think some of that is down to expectations. And I think some of the providers who sell the courses may give people more confidence than they should have on landing a role quickly. And
Mm-hmm.
again, for people trying to break into the industry, in your opinion, would it be easier for them, say they wanted to be a SOC analyst? We've got quite a few in the community at the moment. And would you say there's a particular size firm they should be targeting, or what would your advice be to them?
So SOC is the one entry level job that we have the most success getting people into, because you
Yeah,
can, bring in someone with, critical thinking and not much more, and still be successful. But out of the 35 million companies in the world, there's only 2,000 SOCs, or less than 2,000 SOCs. So there's actually not that many SOCs. So it doesn't, getting people in the SOCs is great. It's a gateway to get people in, and then once they're in, they get exposed to the technology and kind of get some of that training from the vendors. But it's not prevalent enough around the number of businesses to really
no.
be a full-time solution, in my opinion.
It's going to be
You know,
another bubble, I think, with people being
yeah,
trained up for.
yeah. So what you have to do is a lot of people competing for SOC positions that are all equally qualified, and they're really frustrated because they don't understand why they're not getting a job, when they realize is there's only so many SOCs and only so many tier one SOC positions even open.
Yeah,
What
the,
we
the
need
I
is,
think the thing I'm seeing a lot of on the freelance sites for firms needing at the moment is GRC, governance, risk, and
oh,
compliance. And
BRC. I was reading some statistics. It's actually one of the number one job require or like growth for job right now, and it's because from a compliance standpoint, it's the one area that companies are. It's not negotiable.
yeah,
Especially if you're in the health industry, you're in the financial industry, if you're in education, you're in government. It's it's very firm what you have to have and not have, and you have to spend money on that. It drives your budget, and it drives your workforce and what they can do. So GRC specialist is something that you can't come in off the street and do real well. I mean, there's exceptions to that, of course, but it's something you really need a foundation in a couple different areas to really understand how it applies. And so
Yeah.
that's an area where we need to be able to mentor people into that, and we're kind of failing. You know, we need to bring in some SOC analysts and junior engineers and identify those that have that, you know, additional critical thinking or whatever, you know, skills we feel really translate over GRC, and have a passion to want to get into GRC, and mentor them and train them and give them resources to grow into that role.
Yeah.
And it's pretty disjointed right now. You know, there's a couple. I'm sure there's many organizations that have a good internal path for these things, but as an industry, it's kind of ad hoc.
Sure. What was that noise? That was interesting.
Apologize, family of a couple of.
I've got you notice the soundproofing on the walls isn't to keep my sound in, it's to keep the sound out of the 5 feral children I've got running around outside. So, going back to the topic, so I went off on a tangent there. The most valuable thing for you as a CISO, so for people trying to break into the industry, if you were recruiting, what would you be looking for?
I really value critical thinking and kind of that curiosity and kind of passion for learning. You know, obviously there's a certain level of not necessarily technical capabilities, but ability to understand technical things that I kind of want to see, or a pattern of doing something from a technical nature. But it really comes down to, you know, when I talk to people, I kind of really try and feel out like how passionate about you about this. And it's not because I expect them to do all this extra work and all the gatekeeping stuff we hear, like, well, you have to go figure it out on your own and spin up a lab every night. And like, that's not the reason why. I'm perfectly happy with someone who wants to come and do their job from 9 to 5 and go home and do their family and have work-life balance. And I think
Yeah.
we as an industry, we need to think seriously about what the group of people this dealing need to do. But um, but the critical thinking piece is something that I can work with. You know, it's something that I can teach, I can mentor, I can give them material, I can give them training. I apologize, I'm getting pinged on Slack right now. Um, that's something I can work with. You know, I can provide the training, the material. I do a lot of onboarding when I have new hirees. I have like a 40-hour first week of just tech stack training on what we have. The second week is practical labs where I'm walking them through how we do it, how it applies to our policies, all these things. Then I've got a, you know, Pluralsight with all these paths for professional development that I give them Friday afternoons to say, okay, your goal is to go from this to threat hunting, or you want to get into DFIR, or you want to just go into management. Well, here's a couple paths I've created. This is the training I expect you to go through. I'll constantly check in with you on our kind of one-on-ones to kind of see where you are progress-wise, and I'll help you grow there. And hopefully it aligns with our business. You can stay within the company and kind of move these positions. But if not, I accept the fact people are going to move on at some point. It doesn't mean I'm going to stop investing in them.
No.
You know, and if I stop investing in them, I'm giving them a good reason to leave.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Do you see that a lot with big firms, or are big firms quite good at keeping their staff happy?
I mean, right now, a lot of people are leaving, and I don't think it's necessarily all the firm's faults. People, you know, we've all had an existential crisis. We've
Yeah.
all reevaluated what we want out of life. So there's a lot of moving around right now, but it's hit or miss. You know, I think personally, just your boss makes a big difference in your daily life,
Yeah.
and your boss makes a difference on how much they're going to invest or not. But I see it's better than when it was a long time ago. I see that people are investing a bit more on training. Partly because training is sort of a mandatory thing now a little bit too with some of the
Yeah.
compliance regulations. But I see it's better. I still see it should be better than it is though. So I think firms are scared of investing in people knowing they may leave. And I'm not the one that came up with the saying, but you know, they're definitely going to leave if you don't invest in them. So you really should. I've been fortunate to have been in 2 pretty good organizations back to back now, where I see that, and it really does help people stick around longer than they normally would. You know, SOC analyst is typically a high burnout rate, and in my firm before this, we had like 0 turnover because we were doing the right things by them and giving them a career path, and and they were going from SOC analyst to my engineering team, and from my engineering team they could move up, and we're giving them ways to earn more money, get more certifications, get more experience. And that's all people are looking for, is a little respect, a little bit of dignity, a little bit of way to provide for their family and a path to success. And if that door is shut, they're just going to go find another door. So it's you know, organizations really need to think about that.
And what about there's a lot of talk all over social media at the moment about the unrealistic job descriptions and expectations that there are out there. And again, we've spoke about this briefly the other day. A lot of it is a lack of understanding by the firms actually recruiting for the jobs in the first place. Um, I've got a fair few people in the community who feel like they're banging their heads against a brick wall at the moment. They've got the qualifications, they've got a little bit of experience. They keep sending the resumes in and keep getting knocked back. Is there anything that stands out to you when resumes come in for positions that you're offering? What stands out? What makes the difference?
Um, so it is hard right now for people, especially in the entry level position, because for every one position that I open up, I see hundreds of resumes, and that does make it very hard to qualify from a resume itself. But I look at their experience. I look at some of the things they've been doing. Um, I take experience over certification. So if someone's been doing help desk for 4 years, I'm going to take that over just like a security plus, to be honest.
You would, yeah,
But it's very subjective. It's very subjective. It's really. I mean, you should have some sort of somewhat formal scoring system to a degree, so you don't introduce your own biases. But I typically try and interview as many as possible because what you see on paper versus what a person really is when you talk to them is very different.
absolutely.
But but most companies don't have the time for that, and so the one thing I would say is I think it's more advantageous to spend time on your LinkedIn. And I know people are going to hate that because a lot of people don't like that. But spend time building what you've done in LinkedIn and your skills and writing things down there. Have a GitHub repo with examples of your work and some technical things and projects and show your things there because that's how people are going to find you. And when people are finding you for a job, the chances of you getting the job are astronomically higher. I'm going to tell you a secret. The last 4 jobs I've had, I've not applied for one of them.
I was thinking that my next question was going to be,
Yeah,
out of all the people you've recruited recently, how many did you know, or how many did you recruit from a piece of paper?
half and half. So
Yeah,
some of them I put out the rec, but the other half I knew I had a rec open, and I knew I was hiring out of Ireland, for example. And I went and looked in, and I looked myself because I hate paying the recruiting firms, and I feel like I can do it, and I feel like I'm better at it. And I went
yeah.
through and I looked at a crap ton of LinkedIn pages, and I looked at just varying things of what they were doing around school, what they had posted in there. And I reached out to 30 people directly and said, hey, do you have some time to talk? We have a position open. Let's see if this aligns with what you're trying to do and what I'm trying to do, and we'll see what goes from there. And I just whittled it down from there to about 2 people.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised I haven't seen it in the chat yet. But have you got any jobs at the moment?
Uh, so I do and I don't. Kind of on hold. So I have a rec open. I'm holding off to find out if it's international or CONUS. So once I kind of know, I do have one open. And
You say about the international side, and the thing about the InfoSec Live community. I'm conscious of time. We've got about 2 minutes left, and at the end, I'm going to just give everyone a minute video of what the members of the community have said as to how it's helped them. And the reason I'm mentioning that, it isn't a sales pitch as such. It's because I've seen talent from all over the world, and a lot of this global talent isn't getting picked up for whatever legal reasons, for employment contract requirements in the US or the UK. But equally, a lot of them are getting overlooked for roles where they could add some serious value. And we've identified an absolute plethora of talent from all over the world in the community. And back to what we were talking about at the start, you've got people in countries where, in the UK, I'm very fortunate where when my life went wrong a few years ago, I have the state who bails me out to a certain extent. And, I've got food banks I can go to if I need food. It's not like that everywhere around the world. And we've got a lot of people in more deprived countries who've learned an awful lot of skills and aren't being given the breaks. I think employers need to change the way they're looking at that, perhaps a little bit. But my understanding is it limited because of the legal side of it? Is that a restriction for you when you're recruiting in the US?
yeah, it's a business and legal side because you pretty much have to have an entity set up there where you can pay them and give them benefits and all these things. I mean, these rules were set up to protect employees from being, kind of ripped off, but it's limiting who you can actually hire internationally because, they don't want some company coming in and paying them, pennies on the dollar and getting all the services. So they say, okay, well, you have to have an entity here and you have to pay them this amount minimum and this and this and this, and companies just don't pay it. They just don't deal with them. And you're right. In a lot of these countries where people don't have a lot of options, they're the people that are turning to the red side, but not the legal red side, the illegal red side, and they're just doing it to survive. And
Yeah.
it's not a good situation for them. And I think, we do have to look at this from a more of a global perspective of, we could have these people on the blue team if we figure this out from a business perspective, and we need to do that. Otherwise, they're just going to be phishing us and poking holes in our stuff and causing us problems. They're going to join ransomware gangs, and we literally could have them working for us for way cheaper
Well,
than.
I'm telling you now, you need a lot less certifications and qualifications to be a bad guy than you do a good guy.
Yeah, pretty much zero.
And my 16-year-old son has just started his T levels, which is like higher education for technology in the UK. And he was telling me the other day that you can now buy ransomware as a service and phishing as a
Oh yeah.
service. And it's my 16-year-old son telling me that.
Yeah,
It's
it's all
scary, isn't it?
commoditized, and they don't have to necessarily know how to write any of it. They just become, kind of a broker of it, and they fish it, and they kind of do some campaigns, and they're part of an ecosystem. And it's, let's say they only get $100,000 of it, out of all this. That's a life-changing amount of money in certain parts of the world, and they only need it to work once. And it's not them; they're helping entire families and groups of people and neighborhoods. I mean, this is, you know, this isn't necessarily bad people. This is people without options that aren't able to make good choices.
Yeah.
And so you kind of got to keep that in the back of your head, that we imagine this, everyone's this Russian or Ukrainian pro hacker that was originally in the military, and now they're just whatever. It's just not those are the people who wrote it, and they're trying to commoditize it. But everyone else is a lot of just very normal people that are in a bad situation and don't have a lot of options. And if you've ever asked yourself what you would do to put food on the table for your family, the answer is you would do this.
Absolutely. And the problem with cybercrime is it's crime as a distance, isn't it? It's not running down the street and grabbing an old lady's handbag.
It's nameless corporations. It's banks. People that are insured. It helps people who deal with it. But again, if we're just assuming everyone's evil out there and that's why they're doing this, we need to rethink this. We need to think about, hey, we need to approach this a little bit differently. This is an economic issue as much as it is a technology issue.
Maybe we should go back to a point you made at the start, which was the fact that a lot of big firms out there have got some very, very good blue team training. Perhaps if we beg and plead enough online over the next few months, they might start to give access away.
Yeah, I mean, I just think right now, like, let's just have a moratorium. So I understand this costs money to develop all this training and then the portals and the people. I get it. And you can go back to making money once we've kind of gotten over the hurdle. But we need to open the doors right now, and we need like a massive draft of blue team. We need to like just get bodies on the board, because we're outgunned right now and we're going to lose. And we're losing. Just look at the month of October alone. It's just been, we're patching Microsoft 3 or 4 times a week. We're patching Mac OS every week. Chrome is getting patched every week. It's just going to get worse. It's not going to get better.
No.
We need people involved on the protection side, not just from an AppSec perspective, but the whole gambit. Those are just the visible ones. Companies are getting hit from all angles. Those are just the visible ones.
It's not, I mean, most of them don't even mention the fact they've been hit. I think is the scary truth.
Oh yeah, half of them even know it because they're not even logging, so they don't even know half their environment's been compromised already until it's on the dark web, and then they I don't know.
It's a bit late. Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure. We've overrun a little bit, but thank you so much for your time. I know how valuable it is. I really appreciate it. I hope everyone else has enjoyed and benefited from the conversation too. Quick sales pitch at the bottom of the screen if it works properly. If I point like this, no, there we go. We do have a free community for people trying to break into the industry. We've helped lots of people get jobs who are existing professionals, and some of those who are trying to break in too. So if you are looking for work and you'd like to be part of a community, please come and join us. I will bid you farewell now with a little video to tell you from our members all about it. Chris, thank you so much. Everyone else, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
It's been so great to be part of this awesome community where you can learn, get potential jobs, and this is the part that the community has helped me the most, being able to get a great contract in security, and thanks for this.
You don't have to be super experienced in order to contribute. They really foster a sense of community, and they encourage everybody to contribute anything that they can, regardless of whether you're just starting out in your career or if you've been in a career for decades. I like the different challenges that they have, the different pathways that you can follow, the fact that you can join communities that are specific to you and your needs. It's a new and growing and thriving group, and I'm really proud that I was able to be a part of it from almost the very beginning.
It's given me a community I could lean on, and the people in there are always willing to help. I've also gotten to break into cybersecurity because of InfoSec Live, and I'm very grateful for that.
Cybersecurity professional or are trying to become one, you need to get onto InfoSec Live.
Whether you are brand new to the field, whether you are pivoting from another IT career, or you are pivoting from a non-IT career, this is the place for you to. Also, even if you are an experienced professional, there will be something here that you can learn.
InfoSec Live has been great for me because it's brought me closer to other like-minded people, and I've been able to pick the brains of some real industry experts that are also part of the community.
To the right place, because listen, let me tell you that InfoSec.live is everything that it claims to be. A vibrant community. They've got all that you need on InfoSec.live. Listen, they tell you, InfoSec.live is addictive. Get on board. Come and get addicted.
Get on InfoSec now.